Today's video has a little bit of a backstory. I completed recording earlier on tonight, and in terms of how I put things together, if you're not familiar with the channel, I like using slides to illustrate the points so that the visuals help to reinforce the teachings. And when I came back downstairs to look at the recording and get ready with editing, the view with my slides was not recorded, and I'm not sure what happened. And so I woke up and decided now's the time to revise. And I went and had a shower, changed so that I could also just let go of the events of this evening, and decided instead of trying to make everything fit, I could retrofit the images, etc. I decided not to do that. Now, in parallel to in recent weeks, I've been using another tool, and I really feel like I want to bring that out into this forum, and I will do a more detailed video. But it's a tool called Only Good Can Come From This, and that's what I started to do, is remind myself only good can come from this. And when I did that, I also came to the realization that, or an awareness, this feeling within me is, what do I desire? Because I could just pack everything up at the moment. My dogs are sleeping to the side in my office here. My husband's gone off to bed. And I asked myself, why do this? And I'm going to be talking about that, about why have a dream? What are we dreaming about? Why do any of it if we're not committed to ourselves, and if we're not actually realizing the desire and why we would want to have anything in life? And I really felt this energy of, I'm doing this because I choose to, and I really want to bring the best of me at any time. And so in terms of what's happened tonight, there's a different level, there's a renewal, there's a different level of what I'm doing now, what I'm bringing through. So I have been on YouTube since August. I think it was around late August. I can't remember the date right now. But it's been close to 6 months, and I have had challenges come up, and I have had things go wrong. I've had editing go wrong. Editing go for much longer than it normally would, or I'd record stuff and it just didn't feel okay. And as I look back at this, I look and see that only good can come from this, because it's building within me a tenacity and a capacity for being, having my own channel, being online. I've already had a turnaround in terms of what I do on my Facebook profile, and what I do in terms of my lives. And I feel like no place in my life is actually being left untouched in terms of showing up. So Neville talks about dwell within, which is living in the dream, living from the dream, I should say. Now, Mark Twain says, don't dream your life, live your dream. And that is exactly what Neville teaches in terms of this chapter. This week's chapter, Dwell Therein, is about creating your life and living in the dream, living from the dream. And I've said a little bit up front, why have a dream if we're not living it? And that's what Neville asks. There are a couple of questions that I bring through in this week's video. And the other thing that we also can get a little bit hung up around is how. How will we do this? How will it turn out? When will it happen? Now, the how is actually messing in the middle. And Neville says, go to the end. And you will see in this week's video with the case studies now, and this is why I chose to do the Law and the Promise, because the case studies are really good. They talk about real life examples. The testimonials of what we see in modern day are what Neville has included in this book. And so it helps us to see how someone else who has had challenges and obstacles overcome them, move past them, make the shift, the inner psychological shift. So lots of lessons out of my little episode tonight in terms of this week's video, but in terms of the experience. And I could either get stuck in the experience of how it didn't go right, etc., or I can choose to revise it and know that it's been even better. And so only good can come out of this. And that's what I will do next week, is do a video around this, a little bit more teaching, a little bit more learning, etc., and how you can apply it. So welcome to the channel. If you don't know me, my name is Fazila.bizior. I am based in South Africa, in Cape Town. And of the many hats, the multidisciplines, and the multi-passions that I have, I am a metaphysical teacher, a spiritual and personal transformational mentor, an author. I'm an intuitive. I channel divine guidance and messages and teachings. And so when I bring these teachings through as well, I feel where I'm most in alignment and what wants to come through. And this week, we're going to talk about living from the dream, living in the dream, creating your life so that you're living the dream. And that for me sounds amazing. I know that living the dream can be a little bit idyllic, but you have the power within. And this is no idle statement. This truly is. I've seen the evidence of it in my life, in terms of where I started out and where I am now at this current point, and where as well, what my other ends and what my other dreams and desires are. So let's get into it, and I'll make sure that my technical side runs a bit more smoothly. The Law and the Promise, dwell therein. This jumps out in terms of the question, why build a dream house and not live there? What would be the point of building something impressive and grand, and yet you're not going to live there? And this is what he talks about, is that we take the metaphor of building a house, and when we build a house, it's always going to be because we intend to live there, in most cases, I would say. And this is true of man's dreams, is man creates and could live from his dreams, and yet he does not do that. He is perpetually constructing his dreams, but doesn't live from them. And so the question is, why have dreams and not live them? And for my personal example, why have the dream and of having this channel and wanting to spread the messages and the teachings and help people understand so that they can awaken and help others in their lives, and those people that they touch also do the same, so that collectively we are all raising consciousness on the planet. And if we don't have enough importance that we are placing and commitment and taking responsibility for ourselves in terms of what we wish to have in our lives, no one else can do that for us. So here's the question then. Here's another one. What is your dream? Because here's what Neville tells us, and we're going to see this in the case study. It is the medium of a dream, a controlled waking dream, where when we know how to live in our dream, that we live in it until, in fact, we do just that. And that's what the case study in this video is going to talk about, is how the doctor and his wife created their reality. They learned how to live in their dream house as they had, in fact, achieved at the time that they sent this testimonial to Neville. what they learned to do was to stay true to their end. And they mention this in the case study as well, or the testimonial. And what you'll also hear about is the bridge of incident, is that the help may seem to come from outside, but ultimately it is only ever dictated by the person who has been holding that imaginal activity in their consciousness, who becomes the dream, who steps into the dream and in their imagination and holds true to it. And we're going to see what the doctor says to Neville about this. Now, Neville left quite a bit of instruction and practices. So here's something that you can actually work with. And he says, this is how I do it when I am to dwell therein and make this dream my reality. When I close my eyes, this world is shut out and I am blind to the outer world. That is withdrawing your senses away from the physical world. Then I feel myself into the state of my desire. With my inner eye, I see it all around me. Now, this is dropping into sats. This is going into the imaginal space, into the dimensionally larger world. And he says, I sense its solidity. And when my five senses are awakened to the feeling of relief, knowing it is accomplished. So make note of that. If you truly wish to see that your desire, your wish fulfilled, you're living in the end, relief is a really, really strong way to actually give the signal to your subconscious mind that it is accomplished. Because yes, you will have the celebration when you've achieved something. But once you've had that for a while, you won't be celebrating every day, all day. You get to the point where you're relieved, you know it is done. And then he says, when I open my physical eyes, my physical world returns and tries to persuade me that what I did was unreal. So that is what manifestation is about. It is making the unseen seen. And however, there is a gap from when we go into the imaginal world, when we are pursuing, when we are doing the imaginal activity, and the outside world has not yet reflected that. And so we can either be persuaded by our inner conviction, our inner state of consciousness, that it is done, as opposed to what is sitting outside of us in our physical reality. So we cannot serve two masters. We cannot be in two worlds in terms of our state of consciousness. So choose to rather be true, have faith, bring in that feeling of love for what it is that you desire. And so Neville says, but having done it time and time again, I know that my desire is moving towards its objective fulfillment. So that is having faith in your desire, in having faith that your desire is complete, it is done. So through sats and the controlled waking dream and dropping into imaginative occupancy, man, through his imagination, lives in and from the wish fulfilled. And I mentioned this often, many people will ask about how. This is the how. It is going into sats, it is going into the imaginal state and truly, truly seeing yourself as having accomplished whatever it is that you desire. So living in the end is living in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And when we do that, you're going to find that the state of consciousness, your imaginal activity, is actually going to lead you across a bridge of incident to the fulfillment of the dream. Now, on the bridge of incident, there are events that man does not know at the time will turn out and unfold in terms of the fulfillment of his dream. Neville says it may take 1,000 men to fulfill your dream. and all you do is write the drama, because you are the writer, you are the author, you are the producer, the director, and the actor. And you bring people into your imaginal drama. So when you persist in thinking from your dream, when you persist in knowing that you have it all, you have that desire, no matter how long it takes, and you do not focus on time, you do not focus on how, you allow your creative power of imagination to answer to your state, because then the creative power of imagination is actually unfolding for you what your state of consciousness is about. And the doctor says that, so Neville says that the participants are always being drawn into our imaginal drama because it is what is required of them. So the imaginal structure demands it, and there are people who will play the part. And we'll hear about how the doctor and his wife consistently stay true to their imaginal seed. Remember this, everything about man is created in imagination. So you will always find that if there are circumstances or external situations that you do not like, you can change them. Because it was first held in your imagination, you can go back and change it. And revision is a powerful tool to change that. There are other processes and principles that Neville talks about, which would be self-concept and inner speech. Whatever method or process that you're using, know how to use it. Apply it in the way that is going to be most effective. Man is imagination, and any desire you have yet to witness can be in your reality when you know how to apply the law of assumption. If you know that you are unhappy with circumstances, what can you do? You can change it. You can change your assumption. You can change how you react. You can apply the different processes, and you can apply the different principles. And the law of assumption is powerful in terms of you actually even elevating what is already good in your life to great. So why not transform that which is negative or disillusionment or disappointment? There's no need to stay stuck in it. And that's the thing. If you're still not happy in life, you may currently be witnessing in your physical world something that you think is real. You can look at this and decide that you wish to witness something different to what you're seeing. Because the mountain or troubles that you believe to be true is only because of your concept of self. And your concept of self says, this is true because I believe that this is true. And that is how simple it is, really. Is what are we conscious of being? And there is nothing that comes into your reality unless you are conscious of being it. You can always remove the mountain of upsets, change it to what you would love to have. And that means once you remove the focus away from whatever it is that you think you lack, and you withdraw your attention from that external reality, you will come to realize an important discovery. This is your ability to mentally move from things as they are to things as they ought to be. And it's one of the most important discoveries that you will find in terms of the law of assumption, because it is a psychological move. It is an inner psychological move. When you make that mind shift change, when you make the emotional change, and remember, Neville talks about feeling being the secret. When you feel it so strongly that you know that it is a given, your desire is fulfilled, and you persist, you will achieve what it is that you desire. And therefore, to get started, look in imagination all of that which you desire. To create your dream life, you need to remind yourself, you are the center of your imagination. And you have the power of intervention through all of the teachings and applying them. And in that way, you can alter the course of events that you think are real, that you are witness to. Everyone can do this. So to move from success to success means you've got to move through the mental transformation of going from lack to being the person who has. Moving from the state of I don't have to this is what I already have achieved. And you do this, you make these inner psychological changes, inner psychological transformations in terms of your environment, what you see out there. Do not believe in it, do not buy into it. What you think about others and yourself. So remember, you can switch mentally from where things are not in your favor to the way you would love to see it. There's something very important here for you to note. Your imagination is not tied to the senses. It's not limited by geographic location, physical location, or any other thing. You move from within first, and then it directs your outer world. And this is where we now come to the case study, stately habitation. For many years, a doctor and his wife dreamed about their stately habitation, but not until they imaginatively lived in it and did they manifest it. So we are going to look into the case study and follow the text on screen, and I'm going to read out for you how the doctor and his wife achieved the reality of their wish fulfilled. So just to bring this into context, this was a letter that was submitted to Neville. It was from the doctor and his wife who studied with Neville and applied the teachings. So this is their story. Some 15 years ago, Mrs. M and I purchased a lot on which we built a 2-story building housing our office and living area. We left ample space on the lot for an apartment building, if and when our finances would permit it. All those years we were busy paying off our mortgage, and at the end of that time had no money for the additional building we still desired so much. It was true that we had an ample savings account, which meant security for our business, but to use any part of it for a new building would be to jeopardize that security. So I'm drawing your attention to the fact that he mentions if and when our finances would permit. And they felt that they had no money for the additional building they had still desired. So 2 things here. They were initially conditioning their desire based on their capability to and ability to pay for it. So they'd already decided prior to working with Neville that they had to pay it off and they had to buy it. So continuing with the text. But now your teaching awakened a new concept, boldly telling us we could have what we most desired through the controlled use of our imagination, and that realizing a desire was more convincing without money. We decided to put it to a test to forget about money and concentrate our attention on the thing we desired most in this world, the new apartment building. So this is the thing. What is the dream they were building now? It was literally a building, a new apartment building. So with this principle in mind, we mentally constructed the new building as we wanted, actually drawing physical plans so we could better formulate our mental picture of the completed structure. Never forgetting to think from the end. In our case, the completed occupied building. We took many imaginative trips through our apartment house, renting the units to imaginary tenants, examining in detail every room, and enjoying the feeling of pride as our friends offered congratulations on the unique planning. So there's more detail now in terms of what they did to stay in the end, to live from their dream. We brought into our imaginal scene one friend in particular. I shall call her Mrs. X, a lady we had not seen for some time, as she had given us up socially, believing us a bit peculiar in our new way of thinking. In our imaginal scene, we took her through the building and asked how she liked it. Hearing her voice distinctly, we had her reply, "Doctor, I think it is beautiful." Now, this paragraph holds clues in terms of the imaginal scene and what they did to keep the end scene and live from the end. So now he goes on to say, one day, while talking together about our building, my wife mentioned a contractor who had constructed several apartment houses in our neighborhood. We knew of him only by the name that appeared on signs adjacent to buildings under construction. But realizing that if we were living in the end, we would not be looking for a contractor, we promptly forgot this angle. Continuing these periods of daily imagining for several weeks, we both felt we were now fused with our desire and had successfully been living in the end. So the pertinent points to note here is when they realized that if they were living in the end, they would not be looking for a contractor. Why? Because the apartment would be finished. And so the other pertinent thing is they continued those periods of daily imagining several weeks until it became something that was natural, when it fused within them, when their desire took on the tones of reality. It's simple, it's implied, it's natural. One day, a stranger entered our office and identified himself as the contractor whose name my wife had mentioned weeks before. In an apologetic manner, he said, "I don't know why I stopped here. I normally don't go to see people, but rather people come to see me." He explained that he passed our office often and had wondered why there wasn't an apartment building on the corner lot. We assured him we would like very much to have such a building there, but that we had no money to put into the project, not even a few $100s it would take for plans. So here's the important thing now is the bridge of incident. There are people who will become part of your bridge in terms of how your desire manifests and unfolds. They play the part that you have given them. Our negative response did not faze him, and seemingly compelled, he began to figure and devise ways and means to carry out the job unasked and unencouraged by us. Forgetting the incident, we were quite startled when a few days later this man called, informing us that plans were completed and that the proposed building would cost us $30,000. We thanked him politely and did absolutely nothing. We knew we had been living imaginatively in the end of a completed building, and that imagination would assemble that building perfectly without any outside assistance from us. So we were not surprised when the contractor called again the next day to say he found a set of blueprints in his files that fitted our needs perfectly with few alterations. This, we were informed, would save us the architect's fee for new plans. We thanked him again and still did nothing. So watch here in terms of the constant living from the end, which is that they have the apartment and it is complete. Logical thinkers would insist that such negative responses from prospective customers would completely end the matter. Instead, 2 days later, the contractor again called with the news that he had located a finance company willing to cover the necessary loan with the exception of a few $1,000s. It sounds incredible, but we still did nothing. 4. Remember, to us, this building was completed and rented, and in our imagination, we had not put 1 penny into its consideration. The balance of this tale reads like a sequel to Alice in Wonderland, for the contractor came to our office the next day and said, as though presenting us with a gift, "You people are going to have that new building anyway. I've decided to finance the balance of the loan myself. If this is agreeable, I'll have my lawyer draw up the papers and you can pay me back out of net profits from rentals." This time we did do something. We signed the papers and construction began immediately. Most of the apartment units were rented before final completion, and all but one occupied the day of completion. We were so thrilled by the seemingly miraculous events of the past few months that for a while we didn't understand the seeming flaw in our imaginal picture. But knowing what we had already accomplished through the power of imagining, we immediately conceived another imaginal scene. And in it, this time, instead of showing the party through the unit and hearing the words, "We'll take it," we ourselves in imagination visited tenants who had already moved in that apartment. We allowed them to show us through the rooms and heard their pleased and satisfying comments. 3 days later, that apartment was rented. Our original imaginary drama had objected itself in every detail save one. And that one became a reality when 1 month later, our friend, Mrs. X, surprised us with a long overdue visit, expressing her desire to see our new building. Gladly, we took her through, and at the end of the tour, heard her speak the line that we had heard in our imagination so many weeks before. As with emphasis on each word, she said, "Doctor, I think it is beautiful." Our dream of 15 years was realized. And we know now that it could have been realized at any time within the 15 years if we had known the secret of imagining and how to live in the end of desire. But now it was realized our one big desire was objectified. And we did not put 1 penny of our own money into it. Dr. M. What is your dream? What's your dream? Is your dream in black and white and not quite clear? Or are you willing to now truly live from the end and make your dreams come true? Please leave a comment, hit the like button, and leave me your insights or what you gained out of this week in terms of the teachings. I would love to hear from you. And so there we have it, the first case study in terms of the law and the promise. Join me for the next part, chapter 2 and part 2, which will cover another case study next week in terms of dwell therein. And please remember that each week that I produce these videos where I break down teachings, processes, techniques from the great mystics like Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy, Florence Scovel Shinn, so that you can better understand it and become an outstanding reality creator. Thank you for joining me in this week's video. My name is Fazila.bizior. Please like, please share, and please subscribe, and I will see you next time.